Click fraud is costing advertisers millions every year, and if you're running Google Ads, chances are that you've been a victim of this without even knowing it. The good news is you can drastically reduce it, and I'll show you exactly how in this video. Okay, so let's quickly start by explaining what click fraud is, because it can come from a few different places. Firstly, you've got your competitors who might intentionally click on your ads to waste your budget, to try and convince you to stop running Google Ads, to drive you away as a competitor so that they can get more impression share, more clicks, more conversions, and it reduces the cost of their own Google advertising. That definitely does happen and can be a really big issue in certain industries. Then you've also got bots and click farms. We've all seen those videos with like hundreds of phones set up and then obviously not interacting as regular users. They're not going to become customers of any products and services for ads that they might click on, right? And this is an issue because it can waste your budget, which we obviously don't want. Who wants to put ads in front of bots or competitors and pay for those interactions? That's terrible. But also it can really skew your data when it comes to Google's ability to optimize your campaigns, because Google will use those engagement signals like who clicks, who engages to try and work out who to advertise to. Well, if some of those clicks and engagement comes from bots, comes from competitors, it's going to really provide wrong signals. It's going to make Google's life a lot more difficult when it comes to getting you the best return on ad spend possible. So we definitely don't want that. Now, it's difficult to know exactly the size of this problem, like what percentage of the overall Google Ads spend or clicks are attributed to click fraud, what Google refers to as invalid clicks. On the low end, you've got estimates of about 5%. On the higher end, you've got estimates of about 20%, typically come from companies that offer third-party solutions to this problem. So they're obviously going to try and emphasize the issue and potentially exaggerate there. But somewhere between 5 and 20%, let's say it's 10 to 15%, something along those lines. Well, firstly, that's already pretty significant. Like that might be the difference between your campaign being nicely profitable and not, particularly when you factor in how that might confuse Google's ability to optimize your campaigns because of the misinformation, almost the bad data that's being provided to your Google ad account. But also think about that percentage of the overall Google Ads pie that is attributed to invalid clicks will not be evenly distributed. It's not like every industry is going to see 10% of their clicks be invalid clicks. Some are going to be much higher than others. And you also might see that over time this massively changes. So you might not have any click fraud affecting your Google ad account for a while, and then all of a sudden some bad actors within your space get involved and that really spikes. So you might see a much higher percentage for a while be attributed to click fraud, invalid clicks. It can be a really big problem, and you can watch out for, times where this might become more of an issue and you want to take some steps and manual interventions, which we're going to run through in this video. So let's quickly run through those of sort of the things to watch out for where you might suspect, ooh, okay, something's going on here. I think I'm really being hit hard with invalid clicks and I'm wasting a lot of Google Ads budget. I need to take action, right? So look out for spikes in clicks without corresponding spikes in conversions. Always a bit dodgy, particularly if you're running a campaign for a while and you roughly know what the conversion rate is and that's quite stable. Unusually high click-through rates from certain locations, again, can be a bit of a telltale sign. If you see that repeatedly, thinking, well, that's just not natural. There's something going on that's a little bit dodgy there. You can get really granular and take a look at like specific IP addresses. If you get lots of clicks from the same person, the same IP, same locations again and again and again, could that be fraudulent? Could that be a competitor trying to waste your budget? Easily could be. Difficult for Google to necessarily pick up on that automatically, because sometimes genuine customers will come back to your website and click on your ads again and again. They will check you out many times before they make a purchasing decision, particularly if your product or service is an involved decision, something you need to consider its high monetary value or something along those lines. If you see a spike, an unusual spike in bounce rate or really short session duration, again, often you'll combine that with, okay, we've seen a spike in clicks, but not a spike in conversions. Look at the bounce rate. It's gone way up. Short sessions. This is nonsense. These are bots. There's something going on here. These aren't regular users. So if you see those sorts of things, that's where you want to move on to the next step and be like, right, we need to take some manual intervention here and try and address this. And we should say that Google does what it can to help prevent this. So they have systems that try and automatically detect invalid clicks, and you will sometimes see notifications pop up in your ad account saying that you've been sort of a victim of invalid clicks and that they've credited your account. You can check that in billing, by the way. I'll quickly show you how to do that. So I'm in an example Google ad account here, and if you're wondering if this has happened to you, from overview, you can just go ahead and click into billing and you will see notifications pop up here. They'll refer to what's called often an adjustment, and then you'll see that there's been an accredited amount. Now, those credited amounts are often tiny, like really small, it'd be a tiny percentage of your budget. And sometimes you think as an advertiser, has that really covered the wasted money that I spent on those clicks that weren't real, weren't genuine? Probably not. Google has a hard time because there are always going to be use cases where a genuine potential customer has clicked on your ad 20 times. That will happen. So if Google was to say set hard boundaries, like anyone who clicks on an ad more than 4 or 5 times, that has to be invalid. Well, not necessarily. So it's really difficult for Google systems to fully get rid of this. And I think it's fair to say that it doesn't catch all of the fraudulent clicks, all of the invalid clicks. So like I said, if you see particularly those issues that I talked about before, you want to take some manual interventions, and we're going to run through those in a second. First, I want to quickly let you know about my Google Ads mentorship program, which provides you with all the support you need to get the best possible Google Ad results. And included in my mentorship program is exclusive educational material, unlimited one-to-one support. You can literally ask us any questions that you've got about any aspect of your Google Ads anytime. Landing pages, overall strategy, ad copy, creative, tracking, campaign structure, you name it, we can help you with it. We have multiple daily live calls and Q&As with me and my expert team members. If that sounds interesting, there is a link in the description below. You can click on that, come through to a page on our website and book in a free, no obligation call with us to find out more. And hopefully we get a chance to work together directly very soon. Okay, so let's run through some manual defenses against click fraud, things that you can do specifically to help with this issue, right? So firstly, we've got IP exclusion. So you can manually block repeat offenders, competitors, most likely suspicious IPs. Now you might be thinking, I'm not gonna specifically check like IPs of people who click and things like that. But there are lots of advertisers that operate either with a smaller budget and just don't generate that many clicks, quite quick and easy for you to do. Or you operate in an industry where the cost per click is really high because the potential value of the customers are really high. Again, you might be spending a decent amount, but you're not actually sending that much traffic through to your website, but it's really high quality, high intent traffic. Well, in those scenarios, if one of your competitors is repeatedly clicking on your ads and wasting your budget, that's a big deal. That could waste a massive proportion of your budget, make your campaigns much less profitable. So you can specifically add IP exclusions. So let me quickly show you how to do that. So I'm back in the example Google ad account here, and you can add IP exclusions at the campaign or account level. I'm going to show you how to do it at the account level. You do that by clicking over here on admin and then account settings. And then you see that there's an option down here called IP exclusions. Just click into that, and then you can enter in IP addresses in here, click save, and you've excluded those IPs. They will not be showing your ads going forward. And if that's some competitors of yours, which it often will be, you might be saving yourself some nice Google Ads budget by doing so. Number 2 is geo-targeting adjustments. Now you might want to take another look at the locations that you're advertising to. And I think we all know that there are certain locations, certain countries that are much more likely to contain click farms where there's going to be more bot activity. Like we can have a mature, honest conversation about that. And you may simply want to exclude those locations if you're currently advertising to them. Particularly if you take a look at the data and you see some of the other warning signs I talked about, spikes in clicks without conversions, high bounce rates from certain locations, things like that. We've actually done that with our own advertising recently. We've tightened things up to focus on our core target markets, having been advertising across the world previously, because we get clients from all over the world for our various products and services. So it's quite natural for us to advertise worldwide. But actually there are certain markets where, not just for click fraud prevention reasons, but we just get a lot more noise, a lot more hassle, a lot more issues. And if we just focus on our core market, then we're likely, we feel, to get more out of our budget and make things easier for us operationally. Of course, people consume my content organically from all over the world. And if they want to come and work with us, that's absolutely fine. Like we literally have clients in more than like 40, 50 countries right now, all over the globe. And that's absolutely fine. But when it comes to our advertising, we've decided to get more specific geographically, and you might want to as well, okay? So really think about where your customers are, potentially even where your best customers are, and look to narrow things down if you're seeing that coming up as a consistent issue. Number 3 is ad scheduling. So you might decide to only run ads during certain times of the day to help with these issues. Now, there is data that shows that bot activity is likely to be higher, or a higher proportion of the overall activity outside of like traditional business hours. So if it's say 5% of all the clicks that occur 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, it might be 20% of all the clicks that occur during the night, for example. So you can set an ad schedule and get a lot more specific with this. Let me show you how to do that. I'm back in the example Google Ad account. I'm in the campaign creation process, and I'm at the campaign settings section because I want to show you how to quickly do this. By the way, this is an example ad account. So a lot of the screen share stuff, if you see things, you're thinking, oh, hang on, that's not right. That's not how I'd set it up. Like, don't worry about that. Just focus on the thing I'm specifically talking about. We haven't got everything lined up because, like I said, it's an example ad account. So if I scroll down here in this campaign settings section and I go to more settings, there's an ad schedule. Currently and default is all day. It's what most Google ad campaigns are run on, but we can go ahead and edit this and we could change from all day, for example, to do Monday to Fridays, and then we can set specific times. So we could do a 9 to 5, like traditional business hours would be an obvious option to take if you're worried about, click fraud and invalid clicks. You could look to be a little bit more generous than that. So perhaps it's not 9 to 5, but it's 7 in the morning till 10 at night, something like that, when most real people are active and then most real people are sort of asleep or not necessarily checking out products and services and clicking on ads during the night to help with this issue. You can add in multiple ad schedules, so you could still run, you have different schedules for the weekdays versus the weekends, and you can do all sorts in here. I've got another video about ad schedules if you want to find that on my channel and check it out. But it's something that you might want to do. And if you see this an issue, you can give this a go quite quickly and easily and see if that helps improve what may be significant invalid clicks coming through your Google ad account. Number 4 is device targeting. So you can specifically exclude low performing devices. So for example, cheaper Android devices are typically linked to more invalid clicks, more click fraud, more likely to be used as part of like click farms and bots and things like that, right? So you could look to exclude those. Or what you could do is you could adjust bids for different devices according to performance, and that ties into click fraud prevention and where that's likely to come from. So I'll show you how to do that. So again, I'm back in the example ad account here. If you go into insights and reports and you click on when and where ads showed, and we see we've got this devices section, and you can see here for this is an example campaign of ours. We've got it broken down by computers, mobile phones, and tablets. Now, I know that if someone is searching for my company, this is a search campaign, the example here, if someone's searching for my company, my products and services, if they're doing so on a computer, that is likely to be a higher value customer than if they're doing so on a phone. It's a different mindset. They're in business mode, they're serious, they're actually going to work, they're not looking as much as they're. We've got lots of data that demonstrates this from our Google Analytics, things like that. So what we might be able to do in this scenario, what we might decide to do, I should say, is we might say, look, with mobile phones, I want to edit this, I want to change the bid adjustment. So I want to decrease the bid adjustment on a mobile phone by, say, 30%. I don't think that people clicking through on mobile phones are as valuable. And you might do this not just from a performance standpoint, like I just described, but also from a click fraud prevention standpoint. You might be like, look, certain devices, certain types, they're just more likely to lead to click fraud. Let's decrease those bids, or let's increase the bids on the other devices, and let's try and make sure that as much of our budget as possible is being spent on the highest quality traffic coming through, whether it's fraudulent or otherwise. I've saved the best manual interventions to prevent click fraud till last. I'll get to those in a second, but first I wanted to know about Hyros. Hyros is fantastic tracking and attribution software and can really help you improve your Google Ad results. It's a software that all the big players in the industry use, including myself. I use it to track results for my own ads across multiple platforms, including Google Ads, and all my organic results as well, which is super helpful. So if someone, for example, comes through and books a call for our done-for-you services, I can see exactly where that person came from. This is particularly important if you're running ads across multiple channels or generating customers organically as well. Without accurate data, you are flying blind, and knowledge is power. So let me show you how important this is. So I'm here in my Hyros dashboard. I'm going to take a look at the data and the results that Hyros has been able to track and compare those to what I'm seeing within my Google Ad account for the same campaign. So this is a Google Ad campaign that we've been running. We're only looking at data for a few days here, but it really demonstrates what's going on. So you can see Hyros has registered 6 leads generated, a cost per lead of just over £15, 75 clicks. It's just a branded search campaign, hence why the CTR is 30%. So not a huge amount going on, but representative, right? So that's the data we can see within Hyros. If I jump over to my Google Ad account, we look at the exact same campaign, same time frame. We've got May 21st to 27th. You can see a lot of the data matches up, right? We've got 75 clicks, 30% CTR just like before. But if we scroll over, you can see that Google has only registered 3 conversions as opposed to the 6. So it's registered half the number of conversions. And I can tell you, looking at the back-end data, that the 6 from Hyros is the accurate number. And that's why this is so important, because we might look at the Google Ads data and come to the wrong conclusion, think this isn't profitable, turn stuff off when we shouldn't, but we can verify it with the Hyros data and make much better, more informed decisions and end up with better overall ad results because of it. So if you want to improve the performance of your Google ad campaigns and be able to see exactly where your leads and sales are coming from, go ahead and sign up to Hyros. There is a link in the video description. Number 5 is to adjust your bidding strategy for high value customer acquisition. So you can say to Google, don't just go out and get me as many customers as possible, but please optimize and get me more of the highest value customers to my business. Now, obviously, invalid clicks, bots, even your competitors don't go through and convert. If you're optimizing for high value customers, it's far less likely Google's going to put your ads in front of those bad options I just described in the first place. They're going to do that less with smart bidding as opposed to optimizing for like as many clicks as possible. So definitely recommend that. But this is an extra step you can take to be like, no, I really want you to optimize and go for the most valuable customers. And it's actually relatively quick and easy to set up. So I cover this in detail in my bidding strategy video that you can find on my channel. But just to quickly show you, again, in the example ad account, in a campaign creation process, and we're at the bidding strategy. Now the default here, I've got a Performance Max campaign, but this is going to apply to lots of different campaign types. The default here is going to be conversions value, which is typically what I'd recommend you go with. But what you can do is you can click here, adjust your bidding to help you acquire new customers. So you're basically saying with this setup, look Google, I want you to go out and get more new customers as opposed to just putting ads in front of my existing customer base, which particularly businesses with large customer bases do often see that so much of their Google Ads budget is just spent on remarketing. You're like, I need to advertise to some cold audiences at some point, guys. Otherwise, I'm just fishing in the same pond forever and ever. But if we go ahead and click setup here, and we can add in, like I said, I've got loads of details. I don't want to get bogged down in details here, but I've got all the information around this in that bidding strategy video you can find on my channel. But if we scroll down, we've got this section here. Add an incremental conversion value for new customers, brackets high value. So firstly, we need to define what a high value customer is within our Google Ad account. I'll show you how to do that in my bidding strategy video. So go ahead and check that out. But then we can say, look, I'm willing to pay more. So you can see Google's suggesting here, pay an extra £53.56 for new high value customers. Okay. Now, yes, that's likely to cost more. This campaign, I believe, is set up to optimize for leads. That's going to cost more per lead. But if these are the high value customers, maybe that's more than worth it. So yeah, sure. Let's go ahead and increase the bid by £55 per new high value customer acquired. And like I said, this would also help with click fraud issues because Google's going, right, we're going to be really specific about who we put ads in front of. Yes, it's going to cost more. It's going to cost more on a cost per click basis, a cost per sale, cost per lead. But this is what this business wants, the very best in terms of quality. And it's going to get rid of not just the lower quality leads to some extent, but also those ones that are potentially fraudulent. You can see here how that would adjust the bid and adjust the potential costs. Something that's worth experimenting with for a lot of businesses anyway, by the way. We're doing this more and more because we see feedback from so many of our clients. And we see this in our own business that you just make a lot more money if you get more high value customers because it's the same amount of workload often and potential customer support issues and whatever, if someone's spending 5 times as much as someone else. So why not optimize for the ones that spend a lot more? Number 6 is placement exclusions, and you can get really quite specific here. So if we go back into this example Google Ad account and we go back into this insights and reports section and we've got when and where ads show, this is where we had the devices info over here. We can also click on where ads showed and we can see here on the left hand side placements. So this, for example, is going to apply to certain campaign types more than others. So like a display campaign being a classic example of where you might want to take a look at where your ads are being shown, where the clicks are coming from and decide, is this actually where we want them to be shown? You will find if you are seeing issues with invalid clicks that they come from certain places much more than others. And you also, it's a good idea to check through this and just make sure that your ads aren't being put places where you think that's not representative of our brand at all. We don't like that content. We don't want to be associated with that. We just want to get rid of that. So you can come through and take a look at these placements and go through it. Yes, this does take time. Yes, this takes effort, but that's where the good results come from, right? Is being able to take the extra steps and improve things and gain an edge over your competitors. And this is one of those things. And you might find certain placements and go, no, I don't like this one. You can go ahead and select it, click edit, and you can click exclude from campaign or exclude from a specific ad group if you want to, and get a lot more specific. Again, if you see this as an issue, worth doing. Number 7 is frequency capping. So you can limit the number of impressions, say per day, that any individual user will get on your ads. Again, this applies to certain campaigns, think display, video, more than others. And that could prevent competitors, for example, the same competitors clicking again and again and again and again, and you limit the damage that they can do by simply not putting your ads in front of those people. too many times. Relatively quick and easy to set up. In your ad account, I've got videos around frequency caps and how to set those up and all that sort of stuff. And number 8 is negative keywords. Now, I'm a big fan of having an extensive negative keyword list, not just for the overall performance of Google ad campaigns, but also to help with this issue, to help prevent fraudulent clicks, because they're much more likely to come from those broader search terms that are just less likely to convert for all reasons, but more likely to lead to invalid clicks as well. So I run through in detail how to create a negative keyword list in the first place and how to add to it, which is really important in this video here. I walk you through what we do, how often we do it, something you need to update regularly to get the best possible results. So if you haven't already, go ahead and check this out.